One sport can be costly enough. Throw two more into the mix and it starts to get expensive. And this is one of the challenges of triathlon. Add on top of that the fact that you've got your race entry, you've got travelling to a competition, you've got your equipment, and obviously the cost of all the preparation you need to get there. And this in its own can be enough to put people off triathlon. So that's why we're here. Today, we have some tips to help you do a triathlon race on a budget. And these should make the difference. Well, just a moment before we crack on with the tips. We, as a channel, really appreciate you, our viewers, and the support you give us. And if you want to continue to do that, well, you can either hit the like button if you're enjoying this video, or if you're not yet subscribed, you can click on the globe, and all of that adds to supporting us. But anyway, that's enough of that. It's time to crack on with these tips. Okay, I'm sure that you have most of the kit that's required for swimming, cycling and running, as I presume by now that you've been doing swimming, cycling and running in order to prepare for your first race. However, there might be some specific race kit for triathlon that can really help make your day that much easier that you might not yet have. In particular, the tri-suit springs to mind. Now, this is just a great invention which allows you to wear one piece of clothing throughout the whole event without having to get changed or worry about being uncomfortable, etc. So it is potentially worth the investment. Another piece of kit which you might not yet have, having just been training for triathlon, is a wetsuit. You might have been doing all of your swims in a pool, or maybe you have done a little bit of open water but it's been somewhere where it's been warm enough, and that can be quite a costly investment too. Then there's the maybe less essential pieces, or the less kind of big investments, like a race belt is something that you definitely do need. And then there's things that just would be maybe nice to have, like a more aerodynamic helmet or some better wheels. Well, you have options for all of these. You can in fact borrow quite a lot of this kit, or it may be the sake of a tri-suit where you're less likely to borrow unless you can find a friend who's a similar size. Good idea to go to your local tri club, as someone might just say, oh, if you're doing your first triathlon, don't bother buying something, borrow this. And most triathletes are very generous, and you'll find quite a few triathletes have more than one tri-suit, so they'll be more than willing to let you lend one. Or alternatively, look for secondhand. So go onto Marketplace, for example, or any other search engines, and you should be able to find quite a lot of these pieces of triathlon kit secondhand, because triathletes like to upgrade. There are quite a few tricks to getting a cheaper or even a free entry into some races. Yes, you heard us correctly. You can sometimes get a free entry, and I don't mean by slipping into a race that you haven't entered or jumping in the water and joining a race when you're uninsured. We would definitely not recommend that. No, if you think about events, most of them require a huge amount of volunteers, and one way a lot of event organisers repay their volunteers is by giving them a free entry into another one of their events. So it's certainly worth something looking into, and actually volunteering can be quite fun in itself, and you get your own race to look forward to and you know you've really earned it. Most events also prefer you to sign up early, so as a result they give a better rate. That's so that they can obviously manage their cash flow and plan their event around it. So it's worth looking at the dates of when the price might change on something and looking well in advance. And if you can maybe concerned that you might not be able to make it, it could be worth spending £1 or £2 extra to get that insurance, or being able to have a refundable entry, and then you're still getting a cheaper deal in the long run. And finally, shop around. Just like you would for anything, it's worth having a good look, because the price of entry for triathlons varies hugely. So it depends what you want, but often the smaller, cheaper races can be more fun. And finally, don't tick those boxes for the extras. If there's an option to not have a medal or not have a t-shirt and save yourself some money, well, I'd make sure you don't opt in. First, I'd suggest looking for local races. Obviously, the closer it is, the cheaper it is to get there in the first place. Plus, it eliminates the need for a hotel or any accommodation overnight. And also, even if you find somewhere local, it's still worth reaching out to people in your area or in your club if you've joined one, and you can maybe share a lift, and then everyone's winning. It's so often you go to a race and you find people you know there and go, oh, we should have shared. So try and make sure you have a little bit of that communication beforehand. If there are no races near you and you've got to travel a little bit further afield, well, plan ahead. If you're probably in that case need to find accommodation overnight, but you can save potentially by camping. I've been told it's quite fun. Not that I've tried that before a race, but that's definitely one way to save money. If camping isn't your thing, then just book well in advance and you should be able to find some good deals on Airbnb or something. think outside the box. If you love racing, but it doesn't have to be swim, bike, run in that particular order, or you just enjoy doing events where you get together and you get to push yourself, well, how about park run? It is a global free 5K event that happens every Saturday. You get timed, you get emailed your time so you can compare yourself to the week before or whenever you've done it previously. And it's just a really great initiative where you can go and push yourself maybe that bit harder than you would in training, and you have the feeling that you've done an event. And then back to the Tri Club again. If you are a member of a club, you'll know that quite a lot of clubs actually run sort of time trial events or their own in-house triathlons, which might just be on a training evening one night when you're doing it indoors, or maybe in the summer they set up a bit of a mock event where you can basically push yourself against yourself and maybe against some of your teammates if there's enough of you. And beyond that, if you're really enthusiastic and you've got a big group of friends, or even a relatively small group of friends, why not put on your own mini event? Just be aware if the roads aren't closed, which I imagine they wouldn't be for your event, but if there's enough of you, you can probably even hire a lane and a swimming pool and get some facilities so you can make your own fun race. Well, this final one is just a small difference, but they do all add up. If you're not set on using expensive sports brands for your nutrition, then you could think to use something cheaper like Jelly Babies, for example, or something homemade maybe for the bike if it's a longer route. But also, if you check ahead, quite a lot of races will provide sports nutrition product, but just make sure that whatever you do decide to use for your race, you practice with that in training. Well, I think that covers everything that I can think of at least. So if there are any other elements or ways you think you can save money, then we're purely talking about triathlon racing, not the training. Well, do share those in the comments section below. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. You know what to do. Give us a like.